on GoSuffolkRams.com. From Boston, Massachusetts, welcome to Suffolk Sounds, the official show for Suffolk University Athletics.
Hello and welcome to the Suffolk Sounds podcast. My name is Cam Brennan. You can follow me on Twitter at Cam_Brennan1. That's CAM_BRENNAN and the number 1. That's how you can find me and interact with me on social media. As for today's show, we'll welcome soon-to-be Suffolk Student Information Graduate Assistant Nick Perenick. I sit down with the Perenick in an exclusive one-on-one interview, and that's what you can expect from today's show. We'll give you fan access that you never thought you'd be able to get to. We'll have conversations with the people that matter to you, and we'll get perspectives from those that have close ties to the Suffolk Athletic Department. And you can get that all here on the Suffolk Sounds podcast. Now, with that being said, let's get back to Perenick. Perenick is a recent graduate from Springfield College, and he's coming aboard the Suffolk Rams staff as a sports information graduate assistant in the winter of 2021. Perenick has spent time in the athletics department of Springfield, Western New England, and Endicott College, and brings his experience to the Ram Nation field. Today we'll talk about taking over the reins of the Suffolk Sounds podcast, what he looks forward to when he starts his journey at Suffolk, and a couple little tips and bits there about social media along the way. This interview starts now. Nick, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Cam, it's a pleasure. I can't believe I'm finally here at the end of the semester, but it's great to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Nick, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the present time and your future at Suffolk, I want you to just give me a little bit of background. When everything stopped in May, you were still an undergraduate and you were finishing up those final classes, but I wanted to hear from you when everyone was sent home and started isolating. What was some of your quarantine activities when we all got sent home? What was your quarantine routine?
Well, yeah, I got sent home from school. I was at Springfield College. I got sent home in March like everyone else. And it was a really difficult time for me and a lot of people, but I made the most of it for sure. I finished up, like you said, in May and graduated. But before then, I kind of got in a Netflix kick, a little bit of reading, found some sports magazines and sports outlets to look into as well. I think I did Breaking Bad in about 7 days. And then I started, listening to a lot of sports radio, trying to see, when sports are going to be back and figure out what was going on from the time Rudy Gobert tested positive to now. So it's been an interesting journey to say the least, but I made the most of it.
Absolutely. I think the favorite thing in terms of sports podcasts was it kind of filled that gap of you're not seeing it on live TV, but the analysts are always talking about, all right, here's the news on when's the next update of what's going to happen, when the potential restart is. And I think it was maybe May we heard the news of the NBA has secured a plan for a bubble. I think that was one of the biggest more excitements for me, hearing that news that sports teams they had a plan and they were ready to execute.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. I was listening every day and, hearing the bubble for the NBA, NHL, hearing what was happening with the MLB in live time with Manfred putting a pause on the start of the season, and all the way through Goodell and the NFL season starting up. That was, just a crazy amount of time. But I give all these sports leagues a lot of credit for how they've dealt with the virus and how ever-changing it is, and how all these athletic conferences in Division III, Division II, and Division I have all taken a step and a stride towards, the safety of all the athletes and all the staff as well.
Absolutely. Now, give me a little bit of background about yourself. You recently just mentioned Springfield College, your undergraduate, and coming to Suffolk now. For the viewers that are listening now, what are you going to be studying? What piqued your interest in the graduate assistant in sports information? Where did you get your interest in sports info and sports in general, maybe?
Well, that's a good question. I'm glad to be joining the Suffolk Ram family come next semester now. But yeah, like you said, I graduated from Springfield College in May with a degree in communication and sports journalism. So even before college, I knew that I wanted to be something along the lines of sports media. And while at Springfield College, I had the opportunity to write a little bit for the newspaper and be part of the radio club and the television club. So I was able to be on air for both of those clubs. And, it really gave me a great perspective and a great opportunity at how sports media worked in college professionally as well. I got a lot of great exposure to the Springfield market and, the Connecticut and Western Mass area. So that was great for me to learn out in that area. And while I was at Springfield College, I actually had multiple internships. I started locally at Endicott College my sophomore year in the summer. I was there with Sean Medeiros, and that was my first introduction to sports information, really. I knew from working with the athletic department at Springfield as a PA announcer, I knew sports info was interesting to me. I look forward to, watching how they input stats, take photos, create content, all of that. It was right up my alley. So when I got the opportunity at Endicott, I jumped on it, spent the summer there, my sophomore into junior year, I believe. And it was a great time. I learned a lot, and it pushed me towards where I am today.
Absolutely. And funny enough, with the Endicott story, you and I actually crossed paths before even meeting at Suffolk, where you worked in the summer of 2018, and in my final semester of college was the fall of 2018, and I worked under Sean in the fall. So I remember my intake meeting was with you and Sean, so I thought that was a little funny thing. In Rhode Island, we always say it's a small state, even though I crossed state lines to go up to Endicott.
It is a small state, though, still. Yeah, it was great to see you then, Cam. And when I knew it was going to be a great opportunity to join forces with Amy, when I knew you were on board, because I just knew what kind of personality you had and just how hardworking you were. And so to see you and Amy on the same team, it made it that the program and my graduate program, which I'm going to be studying in the communication master's program, and then joining with the sports information assistantship. I mean, following your footsteps. I mean, we were supposed to work together this fall, but unfortunately I took the semester off. But I would have loved to work with you and see the ideas that we would be able to bounce off of each other and be able to see what content we could produce for Go Suffolk Rams. But yeah, it was great being able to, have the relationship with you and me before I even start.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned content creation. I want to hear from you personally. I know myself and working with Amy, our sports information director, sports info has to get creative, especially in times like this, and making sure that the viewers and the fans are engaged. If you could, off the top of your head, maybe, what was maybe some of the most creative or more innovative thing that you've seen, whether it be professional or college social media teams do in a way of engaging fans? I know some teams go creative, whether it be with Photoshop or video editing, or even something along the lines of teams going through Zoom calls. What were one of the more interesting things that you thought of? And again, feel free to take your time. There was a lot this summer.
For me, looking at what teams did, especially in the NBA and NHL bubbles, to integrate fans virtually was very interesting to me. Being able to log onto a Zoom link and watch the game courtside and be able to cheer on your favorite team and your favorite players. I thought that was a great marketing campaign for them. I thought it could bring fans way closer to the action than we ever thought. And another thing, too, is I saw this maybe at Boston College football, but another couple teams as well had the Zoom, their families on Zoom as they walked through the tunnel. So they were able to wave and give their congratulations to them as they were walking in and out of the tunnel, which was really cool. And definitely a tool that I would like to bring to Suffolk if possible in the winter or fall.
Absolutely. And especially too with those Zoom things too, we've probably never heard of Zoom come February, but now it's kind of on the tip of your tongue of every single, whether you have a meeting or a process that you have to do, it's always a Zoom call. And it's a great tool that's been integrated very well within athletics and academics and everything on top of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had my Thanksgiving on Zoom. So everything's on Zoom now. But it's definitely been very helpful in terms of scheduling meetings and getting things done, and even this podcast.
I know something that I really enjoyed was one of the teams that I followed. When everyone was kind of sent home, they partnered with Nike and Nike fitness trainers as well. So what they had was it was like a 30-minute YouTube video where the first 10 minutes of the video would consist of an interview with the player with a real one-on-one, and making sure and catching up with the rest of the fans of what they've been doing in their time in quarantine and staying home. This was around April and May. And they made it into a 6-part series where the first 10 minutes of the video would be a nice interview where fans can intake it. And the second 20 minutes was just a quick, easy, no equipment 20-minute workout. And I thought that was something that teams and fans were really, really nicely integrated into, where they were able to not only exercise and keep themselves busy while in quarantine, but see and interact with their favorite players as the season went on, or as that pause went along, I should say. Could you take me through maybe some of the craziest moments that you remember, at least from college games in your career? You worked a lot at a lot of different schools, and probably a couple come to mind. I'll give you a minute to think about it while I rattle mine off. I know maybe one of the craziest moments, at least at Suffolk for me, that I always recall is the GNAC championship for indoor track and field for our men's and women's athletes. It was the first ever inaugural GNAC indoor track and field championship, and our men's and women's program are new programs under our great head coach Will Feldman, and they both had a really great shot. And coming down to the final race, Suffolk just needed to beat St. Joseph's of Made. One of our sophomore long distance runners, Matthias Shiki Fair, was able to come out and originally behind by some sort of margin, able to make up the gap and secure a inaugural GNAC championship for Suffolk. And what was an incredible scenes that come as soon as he crossed the finish line, everyone embracing and hugging and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what comes to mind is at Springfield, we had great athletic success while I was there in all sports. But I was there for some great runs with the men's volleyball team, making it all the way to national championship victories. That was a captivating time my freshman year, having that tournament on our campus. And also the men's basketball team reached the Final Four in my sophomore year, and I was working for the athletic department at that time. But this year was probably one of my most exciting games that I've ever called at Blake Arena. Our Springfield College men's basketball hosted Hobart in the round of 32, and Springfield was defeated on their home court by about 1 point, I believe, and it was just crazy to watch the back and forth action of the game, the fans in the stands, and a Division III basketball. Frank Rossi was there, a bunch of media was there, so that was a great time.
Absolutely. Now, something I want to just hear from you on maybe the more personal side of I was able to work through my degree within administration and higher education. Could you fill in the fans maybe and what you hope to gain from maybe your academic side of Suffolk along with the graduate assistantship?
Yeah, I mean, I picked Suffolk because it's has a great academic history, great academic success. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting to Boston and getting on campus, and as well as being in the athletic office, being in the classroom again as well. I'm really looking forward to diving into the advertising and PR section of the communication masters, and really just enhancing my skills in communication, whether that be public speaking, public relations, social media, content management, crisis management, all the above, really. Being able to use that campus and all that it has and all the academic success I've seen from that institution, it just really makes me giddy to be a part of that and to, start up in January and be there for the athletic and academic prowess that Suffolk has.
And that's something that maybe we always don't really feature on the back end of these podcasts, at least, that an academic experience is just as important and as great as I've had in my time at Suffolk. And I want to play a quick little game with you involving social media. Social media is such a great construct within our society today, and such an important within our generation. I want to play a quick game with you that I'm going to call Open, Closed, and Uninstalled. And your 3 social media apps between Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. One is an app that's always open. One is an app that is closed. You check from it from time to time. And the other app is uninstalled that you won't have on your phone. So between those 3 of YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, what 3 are open, closed, and uninstalled?
For me, Twitter is always open. I think I'm on Twitter, whether it be the Explore or my timeline or something. I'm always looking for news. I'm always looking for updates, especially since March. I've been looking for all my updates on Twitter. I think it's, I keyword search almost everything, and I think I have everything open on there. YouTube is just, it's too important to not have open or to not have installed on my phone. So I'm going to have to say that Instagram's out, unfortunately. Wow. Yeah, I think Instagram is really important. I think I do go on it almost every day. I don't post too much on Instagram anymore, and I understand how important it is for social media. But for myself, I think YouTube, I can learn a lot more on YouTube. You know what I mean? I can search up anything, learn how to do anything, learn how to do anything on Photoshop, which is very, very helpful as well. I just don't think I'm willing to throw away YouTube. YouTube also shaped me as a child. I shouldn't have been on it as early as I was, but I was.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. And maybe I flip Twitter and Instagram because I find myself using Twitter as a way to maybe get my news, whether it be a quick update from SNBC, NBC, CNN, and whatever the daily news is that pops up on my trending. I'll just look at that, and that's my way to get my news. It's a way to get my sports recaps if I wasn't able to get a full game in depth and enhance. But the same with Twitter as well, as just being important. It's the way I usually understand and get my news. If something's happening live and I want to hear updates or see updates, that's the way I'm going to do. But I think I'm in the same boat as you with Instagram. It's not really something that I use, but it's something that I want to have as an importance, especially in the times like today where photos are so captivating and draw people in. And in terms of engagement as well with Suffolk's Instagram as well. It's one of our biggest features. And I think that Suffolk is doing a great job with that, but it's something that I need to work on as well.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement for me on all my apps. So that's why I'm going back to school, I guess.
Exactly. And Nick, before I let you go here, I want to quickly ask you, what are some of the excitements? You are taking over the reins as the host of the Suffolk Sounds podcast. Have you generated any ideas? Do you have any angles? Do you want to talk to students? Do you want to talk to athletes? Do you want to talk to more coaches? Maybe introduce yourself to them. What is your general excitement for taking over the Suffolk Sounds podcast?
I'm really excited, but I'm a little anxious, man. I've got big shoes to fill. I mean, everyone that's come on has given you the proper congratulations for what you've done, and I have to as well. And you know the respect I have for you and for what you've done. So I'm excited to take over, but I'll remember you. I'll always have you on. Maybe we'll have to have a couple segments with Cam.
Oh, of course.
But, I'm looking forward to talking to some student athletes and getting their perspectives. I think the coaches is a great way to gain perspective on how the teams are feeling and doing right now. So that's been great to listen to. Maybe some more administrators, maybe branch out a little bit throughout New England. You already went through the CCC, which is great, to Greg K. But, maybe throw in, with some student athletes, some segments like Boston favorites, favorite places to eat, favorite places to go, favorite things to do within the city, favorite teams to play, favorite rivals, some stuff like that is what I'm interested in. So we'll see where it takes me. I'm excited to start it up, but I won't forget where it came from.
Absolutely, Nick. I do appreciate that. But I want to thank you again for joining me on the final podcast of the fall as we take our winter break and we have a little hiatus. So thank you, Nick, for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Cam.
Ram Nation, if you like what you heard today on the Suffolk Sounds podcast, be sure to visit our website, GoSuffolkRams.com. That's GoSuffolkRams.com, where you can find all you need to know about Suffolk Athletics. While you're at it, be sure to follow the Rams on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the same name for an insider's look. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate us, leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to the Suffolk Athletics official show on. Send in your questions. Who'd you like to hear from, whether it be a player or a coach? Be sure to bring something new to every show. As for now, we are taking a hiatus for the winter holiday, and we will rejoin you for the spring of 2021 as Perenick, as you heard from this podcast, will be taking over the reins of the Suffolk Sounds podcast. It's been a pleasure to bring you all the information from these coaches these past couple months, and I've cherished this time on the Suffolk Sounds podcast. Until then, I'm Cam Brennan. Talk to you soon, Red Nation.
This has been Suffolk Sounds. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, and review however you listen to your podcast.